Okay, and we are live, my friend.
Cool.
All right, hello and welcome to the MMA Live Chat Show. I'm Rich Davie, and it's Thursday, August 7th, 2014. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some breaking MMA news and things like that that are going on in the MMA universe.
hmm
Joining me on the show today, my
Hey,
buddy.
I'm Antonio Cooper.
There you go.
Mhm.
And Damon may be joining us as well a little bit later on here, but we're going to get going here because
All right.
we were actually supposed to start at 6 o'clock. Okay, buddy. Let's talk about the big news. Diaz versus Anderson Silva, man. What do you think about that?
That is very big news, but unfortunately, it seems like the UFC has it out for Diaz. It seems like they want his head on the stick for making this announcement. You
Yeah,
know.
and it's kind of funny too because he he still I believe he still had one fight left on his
Yeah.
contract and then he signed an extension. So I'm hearing he
hmm
signed either two or three fights. I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's two to make three or did he sign a three-fight extension, but
No,
it's kind of odd if they were going to give him Anderson Silva like he wanted. Maybe
mhm.
they didn't give him the big money, because he wanted $500,000 per fight to come out and fight.
That wasn't happening.
Yeah. So I don't think that's happening here.
hmm
And
No,
kind of odd though that if he got the big fight that he wanted with a big name, I mean Anderson Silva, come on, man, you don't get much bigger than that.
no, you really don't. And it was 3 fights, so he's on for 4 more fights now
No, okay.
altogether. Yeah, and for them to just go off the top and just say, "Hey, here's Anderson Silva," I don't know if that's like if they did it for the namesake or because it's Super Bowl weekend, but something just doesn't add up with these two trying to fight each other.
Yeah, well, I guess it's kind of like they don't really have any super fights to make anymore, so I
Yep.
guess it's kind of
Mm.
like a super fight that
Yeah,
they could
it's
make with two big
close
names.
to a super fight. Yeah, I'm saying, but they're both coming off of back-to-back losses, both of
Yeah,
them.
yeah, and they've both been out for a long time.
Yeah. Silva was out a full year.
Well,
How long's Diaz been out? Do you know?
longer.
Oh, wow, that's ridiculous.
Who was it
His
that he
last fight,
quit? Didn't he quit after it was the
GSP.
was it GSP?
hmm
Yeah, and then he lost to
He lost to Condit, and then he lost
yes,
to
yes, yes,
GSP,
yes.
and then he said, "I'm done. I'm done until y'all give me $500,000 per fight."
Yeah, that's kind of silly. I mean, but I think more than likely, I don't know how you think the fight. Let me hear how you think the fight's going to go first.
Whew. I mean, when you think about it, it took a man who walks around at light heavyweight weight class and has the power of a heavyweight in order to knock out Silva. And before him, nobody even got close to hurting Silva besides Chael Sonnen.
Hmm.
So for Diaz, who walks around at about welterweight and fights at welterweight, I really don't think he has the power to actually hurt Silva.
Yeah, he's not one of those power strikers.
Mm-mm.
He's one of those guys who
Punches and
accumulatively lands.
punches.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and he'll usually TKO you like that, and
hmm
maybe after a while, after he beats you up for a little while boxing like that,
hmm
maybe he'll get a lucky shot and get a TKO. But yeah, he's not a power striker, and I just don't see. I agree with you. I just don't see how Nick Diaz is going to box Anderson Silva, which I think that's the way the fight is going to go.
Yeah.
Um,
And what? And on top of that, the only reason I think Diaz has a chance is because he's a triathlete, and cardio might be an issue because Silva doesn't do. He hasn't been able to train as much cardio as he's used to. But other than that, I'm really not sure if he can get past the first round with Silva.
yeah, I think so too because we all know that Anderson Silva has a deceptively powerful striking that you don't even expect. It looks like he throws a jab and it lays
hmm
guys out on the floor, and we're talking about big guys, light heavyweights.
Yeah, he
So
laid out Yushin Okami with a jab, and they
and
said Yushin was about as strong.
Forrest Griffith too, right?
Yeah, Forrest Griffin too, who was a light heavyweight.
Mm.
So yeah, Silva is extremely strong when you think about it. And not only that, when it him fighting Diaz, he has a height advantage. He has a weight advantage. He almost has every advantage you can think of as a.
Yeah, just the bone mass alone, he's bigger than I
Hmm.
believe.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's just
And
an overall bigger guy.
yep. Yeah, like I said, the only thing I can think of that Diaz might have an edge is cardio.
Yeah,
Other than that, ooh, this might be Diaz's fight to lose badly too.
yeah, yeah. What do you think about Anderson Silva throwing leg kicks with, coming back off of that injury? I mean, I know he put up a good front,
Hmm.
and he came back and he worked hard. That must have been painful for him. I don't know what kind of drugs they had him on,
Yeah.
where he could just forego the pain from having. At first I read there was an 18-inch rod in there, and then I read there was an 8-inch rod in there, and then I read there was an 18. I mean, I don't know. So I don't know exactly what hardware he had in
Hmm.
his leg there while he was recuperating. But, to be able to forego the pain from that, because if you get hit when you have hardware in there,
Yeah.
it hurts like a bitch,
It does.
So, unless he just totally desensitized himself, but, I don't think, because from what I understand, I've read that when fighters have the hardware put in, they have to have the hardware taken out before they go
Hmm.
back and fight. So it's kind of funny that, he went a month and then he started training and then, he had the air cast off within what, 6 weeks or,
Yeah.
you know, and then he had, I read he had hardware, he didn't have hardware, he had little hardware. So what did you hear about the whole injury and the,
I mean, I heard the exact same thing you had. It's been multiple stories of what's actually in his leg, and then it turns around, it's what's actually going on and how much progress he's making. He says he's about 90% now, so that has to count for something.
you know,
But in terms of like him actually fighting, we'll see in that first round. You know, Silva is a notoriously slow starter, so we'll see how he fares in that first round.
I hope he doesn't clown.
Oh,
I mean, I used to be huge fans of both of these guys. I
mm-hmm,
loved Nick Diaz way back when he was in the UFC and he got booted out. And then I really
mm-hmm,
wanted to come back to the UFC because he was, he was a, back then he used to fight a ground game. He didn't do so much the stand-up game.
mm-hmm.
He started incorporating that, later on from way back when.
Yeah,
But mostly he was a ground game way back then, and that's what I liked about him. And then the boxing that he developed after he, was out of the UFC for a while, and then I
mm-hmm.
wanted to see him come back. But when he came back to the UFC, he became such a prima donna.
Yeah. And yeah, that's all his fault. Walking out on the UFC because of, as he put it, money issues. But you can't get title fights or money issues after you lose two straight. That's
Yeah,
just
and
times.
bitch about the UFC constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, and they fucked me over in this one, and everybody knows I fucking won, and
Not
then
even
he's,
close,
and
bro.
then he's always flipping everybody off in the cage, and
Mhm. That's strategy. That's pure strategy. I kind of agree with his tactics to do that because he gets people out their game.
I think it's more because both him and his brother have this, I smell shit stink face going on, and I think that gets in the mind more because Nate Diaz cracks me up with his I smell shit face because
Yeah.
he puts on that badass face of his, and it's like you almost want to laugh.
Yeah. he he looks he looks almost childlike when he does it, like an
Exactly.
angry kid.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you described that because I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it's like a kid. You tell him no and tell him to go to their room, and he's
Yeah,
I'll
but
fight you.
Nick does the I smell shit face a little bit better than Nate.
Yeah. They clown around so much, the two of them.
Yeah,
So that first round might just be full of hand gestures or just
yeah, it'll
people
be
throwing up
interesting, won't it?
fists. Hmm?
It'll be interesting, won't it?
Oh yeah, because Silva's a slow starter and Diaz is in your face 24/7.
Yeah, throwing his hands up if you're not engaging him. Oh,
Hmm.
what the fuck? And then he starts to try to slap you if you don't want to engage him.
This is oh man, this main event might be horrible now.
It'll be interesting. I think once it goes past the first round, we'll start
Oh
seeing
yeah,
some fireworks. But who knows? Like I said, are you a fan of Nick Diaz?
yeah. I'm a fan. Stockton boxing, I love it.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
has like he fights like kind of like Michael Bisping in a way, where he punches you a billion times before one of them actually hurts you.
yeah.
But he does it with with far more skill, I should say. Bisping has the technique thing, but when he hits you, it seems like he got a little bit of power behind it, but it just doesn't look like it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that and make that analogy there, because not only do they have that same kind of striking and accumulative effect over their opponents, but they both seem to fail when it comes to the upper level guys at this point in their career.
Every time. I said, look at Diaz. Yeah, he's failed since he's been in the UFC. He's failed both times except for BJ Penn, but we knew how that went. Everybody knew how that was going to go. But despite BJ Penn, he's pretty much bombed every time. Whether it was close or not.
Yeah, I don't know what to make, but I'm thinking actually, like I said earlier, I wanted to get your opinion, and obviously you're a fan of Anderson Silva as well, correct?
Yep, big fan.
So it's kind of bittersweet for you. You have a preference as to who you want to win this one, or?
I want Silva to win because we know Diaz will fight another day. At this point in Silva's career, every fight seemed like it might be his last. You never know, but with Diaz, we know he has 4 more fights. He'll take those easily.
Yeah, I've got to be perfectly honest. I actually thought we had seen the last of Anderson Silva.
Oh, yeah, trust me. And,
I was saying that we probably aren't going to be speaking about him for a while, but immediately we started talking about him again. And, he just surprised the hell out of me.
The guy, he is not normal. A freak of nature, athlete-wise. Like, how long did it take him to get back after he, snapped his leg?
He was back up in training within a month, wasn't he? So,
easily.
It's so hard to say. But again, that's why I'd say it's bittersweet for most people, because most people like both of these guys.
They're both strikers. They both can knock you out easily. And if you liked one, it's very rare to see people actually hate Diaz fighting style. You can hate him outside the cage; it's easy. But he's just like Silva in a way when it comes to fighting style. You have to love the approach and the success rate.
Yeah,
I think that's what people like the most.
I was pulling up Nick Diaz's fight record on ShareDog. And yeah, it was George St. Pierre, unanimous decision loss, 5 rounds, and I think pretty much everybody agreed that DSP clearly won that fight.
Yeah.
Carlos Condit, I think some people thought that one was a little closer. How did you think that one went?
I actually had Condit winning.
Me too.
I did Condit to win.
Yeah, I did too. I don't recall if I had him up 2 points or what, but I know I thought he clearly won that one. And then BJ Penn, poor BJ Penn, he just hasn't been himself for God knows how long now. So
I can't stand the BJ Penn fans. I honestly can't.
I liked him actually way early on in his career.
Oh yeah.
But I started. I guess it was around 2008 era.
That's when
I started losing it for him. I started falling off the bandwagon.
Yeah. It was kind of the same way for me. It was just like, come on, I can't do it anymore. I think it was what fight was it? I just he doesn't have it anymore. It was, I forgot which part it was, but it was a specific fight where I couldn't do it no more.
Yeah. Well, you got to figure the guy never really needed to do this for the money or anything. I don't know why he did. I guess he just enjoyed fighting. But man, once you started losing that amount of fights as he did, it was probably best not to come back. And he even said himself, I probably shouldn't have come back.
Yeah, it's kind of looking like that too. Oh man.
Yeah, going back and looking at Nick Diaz here, he only had 2 TKO wins within the last 4.5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, he beat BJ Penn for that was TKO. Well,
that was a decision. That was a
decision. That was a decision.
And he beat of all people Paul Daly by a TKO.
Yeah. I think that was a knockout. That had to be. Did you see that fight?
I did. I see them all. Man. I just don't remember them all.
Yeah. That was a brutal fight. I love that one. Loved it, loved it.
And then let's see who else. Marius Zaromskis,
Who?
TK, Marius Zaromskis over at Strikeforce in Miami, won by TKO in round one. So both of those fights within the last 4.5 years that he won by TKO were in the first round.
Mm.
One of them was 3 seconds before the round ended against Paul Daly, and the other one was 22 seconds before round one ended.
I mean, yeah, going back to the Daly fight, he was almost knocked out in that fight. I don't know if you remember that, but in the early round, I mean, the early half of that first round, he was almost knocked out before he turned it around. So his chin is not looking like the best against somebody with actual power.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I just don't see, unless Nick Diaz attacks that leg and tries to take the fight to the ground, I don't think he wins this one.
Mm-hmm. And even if he does take it to the ground, I think Silva is just too strong at that point.
Yeah, like we said earlier, he's just clearly the much bigger man. I'm looking at Anderson Silva. He's 6'2".
Mm-hmm. And Diaz is how tall? I think he probably just cleared 6 feet tall.
Yeah, he's 6'1", according to Sherdog. But
wow, he's 6'1"?
That's what they're saying. I didn't think he was that tall.
Wow, me neither. He looks pretty short.
He does, doesn't he? But I think
I think like Dana White's like taller than him. I'm not sure, but yeah, he doesn't seem that tall.
Yeah, I never thought he was 6'1" either. I thought he was a little bit shorter as well. But yeah, unfortunately, I guess Damon's not joining us. I don't know what happened here.
I mean, happens. It happens.
Yeah, let me check on the site there and see if he's having a problem. Just trying to get him in on this conversation here because I know he wanted to speak about this.
Yeah. Okay. And plus, side note, I think Silva, he wants to prove something to himself at this point.
I agree with you.
I don't know if you remember the second fight, but when he came out to his intro, he sat at the entrance ramp for at least a good minute and a half before he walked down. He has a lot of doubt in his mind. And with this fight, I think he just wants to get his hands on something. Before I guess his career comes to a close. He just hit 40 or 39. Yeah. And in fighter terms, that's like forever.
Looks like Damon had an issue here. He said he couldn't get the link to work to join the show.
Oh, hi.
And he wanted me to post it in the public area, but I don't post the show links in the public area. All I post is the YouTube link in the public area. So unfortunately, I guess he won't be joining us.
All right.
Bummer. It would have been nice to have him on. And then there was a couple other guys we were talking to that were also saying that they wanted to join, but we couldn't work out the schedule with them either. But it looks like Damon will not be joining us. He says he's not going to try to join.
Well,
all right. Well, all right. So how do you see this one ending up then?
Silva's, due to him being a very, very, very notoriously slow starter, and Diaz, that chin is, let's see, that's the first thing to go when you haven't fought in a while and when you aged. So I got Silva in it, round 2.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you there.
I'm
going to go with Anderson Silva by TKO in 2 as well. I just, like you're saying there, I think the first round, because they've both been off for so long, Nick Diaz will probably be more of the aggressor. If he attacks the leg and gets it to the ground, that may work out for him, but I don't see him holding that way because, like you said there, to me, when I look at those two guys and I envision them in my mind's eye, I see, Anderson Silva is the much bigger man, and I just don't see how, the ground game is going to work out for him, and with a stronger guy, bigger guy. So yeah, I'm going to say we'll probably go into second round. I think Anderson Silva wins by TKO in 2 as well.
Or if Silva gets him in that clinch that we haven't seen in so long, then it might be end in the first round because we forget just how strong and dominant he is when he does get you in the clinch.
Yep. And Jeremiah was also supposed to join us today, too. I wonder what happened to him. He said he was going to be ready around 6.
Wow. It was supposed to be 4 of us.
It was.
The window's down so fast.
Yeah, it's so hard because, everybody's working and they're trying to get here and beat rush hour traffic home to make it to the show on time. But it doesn't always seem to work out that way. More often than not, it doesn't, which is why we pretty much wing these things as we do.
Yeah.
All right, any more comments on either one of those guys or the fight or anything like that? Or, I mean, the event is actually still not a solidified event because when I went over to MMA Junkie and I took a look, they're still saying it's an unknown card. Or
Yeah, because that's the only fight that they have on, that they have set up for the actual card. I really think that I don't know. It just seems like this is a Diaz punishment in a way.
Yeah, like you're saying, they're looking to beat his ass up.
Yeah. You want to hold out on us and make us pay more money for you. Okay, we're going to give you just what you want. We're going to give you an extremely overpowerful middleweight. No matter if he's over the hill or what, he's still a very extremely strong middleweight.
Yeah, and I don't think we can even say he is over the hill,
Yeah, that's very true. He's only lost to one person.
Yeah, I just double-checked MMA Junkie again, and that is the only fight they have on that card.
That is it. I mean, that's kind of the only fight you need.
I mean, do you think anything is going to happen in between now and then? Because I think that's a good possibility that something may happen in between now and then. I mean, we know Nick Diaz, he might blow somebody off and not go to a press conference, or who knows what's in that guy's head. And then, maybe something might happen to, I mean, we're still a long ways away from that date.
Yeah, I would hate for something to happen to Diaz or Silva, and then we end up with Anderson Silva versus Jacare fight.
Yeah.
So that fight happens next year.
Yeah, the end of January 31st, they've got it slated for.
So yeah, you never know with MMA. A fighter can get hurt the day before the actual fight, or he can get hurt like tomorrow.
Yep.
So, but the way it's looking, you never know, man.
Yeah, I still don't have the chat window or the comment window popping up on the YouTube page here. I don't know if that's a glitch on my browser or what, but if anyone's trying to make any comments, sorry, the chat box isn't showing up on our version of the YouTube page. All right, so let's go ahead then, and I guess what we'll do is we'll move on, and let's talk about the next subject here. I was kind of hoping that we could get the other guys in, but it doesn't look like they're going to make it, so let's go on to the next event that's making news. And I don't know, man. I see some people saying this is a real serious thing. Some people are joking and mocking and making fun of the whole situation, but the Jon Jones versus Daniel Cormier Media Day Scuffle, what did you think about that? I thought that deserves some negative attention. Somebody should actually have to answer for that. I mean, Jones looked like he went out of his fucking mind.
Yeah, he did. He was screaming after it was done. He looked like the Jon Jones that everybody claimed him to be.
Yeah, and he actually tried to hurt. He threw it with no gloves on. He's throwing an overhand left, and he didn't care who was in the way.
Yeah, it moved. Who was that in front of his way that he just shoved out the way, pushed him?
I don't know. And who was that guy that was looked like Dana White's mini-me?
He was like, I think he's like vice president of PR.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's something very, very, very important.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was. But did you see his eyes when Cormier pushed Jones back? His eyes like, whoa, they put like, oh.
He like he wanted to try. Oh man. And yeah, he's trying to hold Jones back, and Jones just shoves him out the way like a little kid.
Yeah, he pushed the one guy down on the floor of the mini-me, and then he went after the other guy that was in between Cormier, and then he threw a punch right over top of that guy, and he was looking to hurt him.
Yeah.
I mean, that is assault, and I don't know, for some people who didn't get to see the video, man, that was pretty violent. And then, you know, I made a joke on the forum where we talk about the fights and MMA and stuff like that. I made a joke where, you know, Cormier, you know, couldn't handle taking him down or whatever the comment was that I made, but it was actually like 4 or 5 guys that were in Jones's entourage, or the guys that were around the stage there, that took Cormier down. And then Jones gets on top and starts throwing punches. It's like, what the hell?
He was honestly trying to hurt Cormier at all costs, it looked like.
Yeah.
And you just see he wanted to hurt him from the start. As soon as Cormier pushed him, he took a step back, threw his belt. He threw the belt and lunged at him with a hard right.
Yeah, was it a hard right or a left? I thought it was a left because he threw it over top of that guy that was in front of him, that he was pushing out of the way.
It was a left. You're right.
Yeah.
But regardless, he lunged at him.
He was looking to hurt him, man.
Yeah, he couldn't wait for that fight.
Did you see UFC tonight last night?
No, I didn't.
Oh man, they were fucking joking about it on there. I'm like, wow, really? I didn't expect that.
Well, I mean, because it's well documented. They hated each other for about, what, 2 years now?
Yeah.
So this was, I guess, the minimum that could have happened. I mean...
Well, the hate, I don't know if you read my article. I wrote a couple articles on Jon Jones, and, you know, again, people think I'm a hater of Jon Jones. I'm not really a hater of Jon Jones. I'm Jon Jones, the fighter, great fighter, probably going to be one of the best in MMA history.
Yeah.
But, you know, he acts like a dick sometimes, and, you know...
An absurdly amount of times. It is ridiculous.
And you just have to call it when someone's being like that. You don't just dismiss it.
And you know what bothered me the most about this? Is that after the scuffle was over, when he got up on stage and he started screaming at the media, he started doing all that. Yeah, and then he gets on ESPN and he puts on the professional PR voice guy. We got out of the line. We got out of the line.
I love the way you do that.
Like, who is this guy?
Jon Jones trying to act media cool.
Yeah. Well, no, you can't do that at all. He just...
and I did what I had to do. I protected myself in self-defense, and therefore I beat up Daniel Cormier for that.
He calls it self-defense. They clearly show him throw the belt and then lunge at him.
The guy is delusional. I feel sorry for the guy, because somebody needs to tell him, John, shut the fuck up.
Oh my! Or just have Greg Jackson around him at all times.
He needs a PR man. I mean, for God's sake, the guy makes probably millions of dollars. Get a PR man, somebody that can speak for you, because you're not doing a good job of it,
Not
buddy.
even close. He does all this. He screams on stage, and then he gets on camera. And Cormier said it best. He said, "What happened to your voice when we was off the camera?"
Yeah. That was funny. Do that Jon Jones again for me at the interview. That was great.
Huh?
Do that Jon Jones at the interview again.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're fighters, we get out of line, and what do you say? When we're doing stare downs, it's a very intimate moment.
That was great. Yeah, Cormier called him out of it. Cormier's laughing at him the whole time.
Yeah. He says it's a very intimate moment. No.
Yeah, what was it? Intimate? There was another word that he used to describe it.
Passionate.
Passionate. Yes. And Cormier says there's nothing intimate and passionate about this.
It's a stare down.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, that was the ESPN interview on the ESPN network with Cormier and Jones there, but they were obviously in separate rooms or separate areas. But that was comical.
It could have been in the same room. No.
And then he did something else again this week. I started writing an article on it. I don't know if you saw the article, but I started. It took me so long to make the graphic. It took me a whole day to make the graphic. But I made this graphic, and then I had the story in mind that I wanted to go with, and then I just never got to because I got so busy, and then I had internet problems. But he did something else again this week, and it escapes my memory right now. But do you recall what he did earlier on this week? He did something against a fan or something, or
I can't. Hold on. I think I remember.
There's something on Twitter, I think.
He's what has he done? What has he done? It could have been
They
the
need to call him.
Instagram
He
thing.
needs to get rid of the Bones moniker and just go with John Boner Jones since he makes so many boners. You know.
The guy, I say if you're going to be one, be it all the time. The guy, he switches up personalities far
Yeah,
too much.
and that's what people don't like about him.
No, I mean, if you want to be a good fighter, we have no issue with it. You're a great fighter, but don't put on this off camera and then on camera different personality.
Yeah, like I
No.
said, it's all a constructed facade with this guy. If
Hmm.
anybody is listening to the video, I did write an article on this. If you want to read, what I first felt about Jon Jones, way back when, I wrote an article because he was getting so much shit as he was coming up through the ranks. And
Hmm.
then, how I changed from that feeling until today, where he just, he is this phony where he puts this front up, he puts this facade up,
Hmm.
and then he tries to pull it off. And it's like, come on, dude, you can't even take your own bullshit seriously with that.
Mm-mm. And when he first started out, and he was the good church boy, raised by a preacher of a father. Everybody liked him. We could go with it.
Yeah, and that's what I like about a lot of fighters, because I like the guys that are raised with some sort of religion and
Hmm.
ethical morals and things like that. They're typically decent individuals. Now, a lot of people don't like that just based on the fact that it's somebody embraces a religion, but
Hmm.
to me that tends to instill morals and values in individuals.
Yeah. Hmm. And it was to the point. What I don't know if you remember. He was in interviews. He was quoting scriptures, and
Yes.
he was doing so much good stuff. And then it all fell down with the car accident
Well, you
with
know
the
what?
DUI.
That was when he was doing that stuff. He
Mm.
had PR representation, I believe, and he fired and parted ways
Oh.
with whoever it was that was with him early on. And I guess it must have been whoever that individual was. I don't recall who it was, but when he parted ways with that individual, it was almost like when Mike Tyson lost Customato. They each went to that fork in the
Oh.
road and they took the extreme fork.
Hmm. Oh. Okay. All right. That makes more sense now because for the longest I was looking, I'm like, what happened? Where did it go wrong for this guy, PR wise?
Yeah, he had somebody in his corner, obviously.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, it seemed too constructed with his interviews,
Hmm.
because he was all over the place. Youngest champion, they had him on every show, and he was ready for it.
And he was so nice. He was so humble in the octagon. Oh, I was, he was so grateful. That he would get a shot at the next guy, and all the
Yeah.
good things that people were saying about him.
Hmm.
But I
And
didn't
then,
see any of that phoniness early on that other people were seeing. I didn't see it early on.
it looked too natural. It looked too genuine.
Yeah, it did to me. But a lot of
And
people read it as totally phony.
and then it's starting to become more and more like, oh, come on, are you serious? Did you really just say that? Come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to talk about his indiscretions and things that he's done, but I mean, just things that are just not morally right. I mean, in the old days in Hollywood, they had what was called a moral turpitude clause in the contracts of actors and film directors and individuals in the industry. And if you broke that moral turpitude law, you were pretty much blackballed and banned because you did X, Y, Z that wasn't within the moral upstandings of the community. And we don't have that anymore in
Nope.
society. So it's pretty much a free for all today.
Hmm. And it's really, really strong with this guy. Um, oh, one issue that I do have with this is Cormier's part in this. He's not really. How should I? He just seems like the opponent at this point. He doesn't really seem like a real contender at this point. With his interviews.
Yeah, I don't see him. I get that feeling that, and that same thing that you're expressing here. He doesn't seem to be taking it seriously. Like he's got this in the
Hmm.
bag, and he's not going to have to worry about it.
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't. He looks way heavier than he always looks heavier than 205, but he just looks like Yeah, he looked like he already had the fight won,
Yeah.
even though everybody's looking at him like, no, you have the fight lost already, man.
Yeah, I know. To be expected. Most of the Jon Jones fans are going to be saying that he doesn't stand a chance. But man, the guy does stand a very good chance, in my opinion. I don't know
Yeah.
what you think.
Oh, undefeated Olympian, and he knocked out heavyweights. This is the guy who said if anybody can knock Jon Jones out, it is this guy.
Yeah. Not only did he knock out heavyweights, he threw them around like rag dolls.
Like rag dolls. You saw what he did to Dan Henderson? That was ridiculous.
Oh yeah, he just
Rag dolled him. He WWE style.
yeah. I mean, and the way that he picks guys up, they're over his friggin' head.
Mm-hmm. Like like little kids, he just tossing
Yeah,
them around.
right over his head. That's hard to do, man. Especially when a guy is putting up,
Yeah.
restraint and trying to, get away and counter what you're doing, and it's like it doesn't even phase him.
Not even close. So I think Jon Jones, he's going to try all those old kicks, but if Cormier trains as hard as he says he's training, we might have a new champion on our hands.
Yeah, I think. How do you see it going?
This one I really don't know. I mean, because he's on the stuff Jon Jones takedowns, and he might take Jon Jones down on his own. We're seeing more and more that Jon Jones looks more what's the word? Susceptible
Yep.
to takedowns.
Yep.
And against a Olympian, Daniel Cormier, he's going to get taken down.
Oh yeah,
I'm not sure how it's going to go from there.
I agree with you.
Yeah, how do you see it?
I think what's going to happen is first off, they're going to come out and Jon Jones is going to try to fight that outside fight and score his points and get his elbows and his fancy moves. But I don't think that's going to be allowed by Daniel Cormier. I think Daniel Cormier is going to rush him, which is what he needs to do to get rid of that massive height and reach advantage that he's lacking. And then I think once he crowds Jones and Jones gets up against it's probably going to be some Roman Greco up against the cage like he did with Frank Mir. And I think once he gets Jon Jones up against the cage and he shows that he's got the superior power, in my opinion, I think that's what's going to happen and that's what's going to be expressed. I think he's going to take him down to the ground. He's going to get Jones to the ground and he's going to TKO him. I don't know what round that's going to happen in, but I think it's going to be a TKO. He could also land a big shot and knock Jones the fuck out as well.
Yeah, I think he might fight the same fight he fought with Bigfoot. Remember when he knocked out Bigfoot Silva?
Yeah.
He might actually fight that same as that type of fight.
How quickly did that one end? I don't recall.
He knocked him out. He knocked out Bigfoot.
How quickly was that though?
I think it was either 2 or 3. I forgot which round it was, but he bullied him. He bullied Bigfoot the entire time, and he was stronger than him.
That was shocking.
Just better than him, huh?
That was shocking, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean Bigfoot 6'4", yeah, he's pretty tall, a pretty big guy. And you got this 5'10" Olympian who just went in there and dropped him.
Yeah, 6'4", 264 pounds, and just
So I think 205-pound Jones might be in some real deep water here.
Yeah, you're right. It was 356 in round 1 KO.
Oh, that was round 1?
Yes.
Wow. See, yeah, he knocked him clean out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty brutal. I remember that one. I went back and I watched that after I started bitching about him and some of the people that he fought and so on and so forth. And when I saw that, I was like, damn. I don't remember all of the fights, but when I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, I remember that now.
Who else is on this chart?
On the Strikeforce card?
No. The Jones and Cormier chart. I know that Conor McGregor's on there.
Yeah, did you see him at the press conference?
Yeah.
He was digging it. He was like, wow, that's better than anything I've ever done.
See, oh man. I'm not sure if that's the real deal.
Now, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier actually opened up as the favorite, and he was a 2-1 favorite when the odds came out, and now he is a 2-1 dog. So
That's where promo gets you.
Yeah, Connor is looking to be the favorite in that one there. Then we got the return of Dominic Cruz versus Takeo Mizugaki.
Oh.
That's great.
Oh, man. I don't know if I'm ready to watch Dominic Cruz fight again.
Yeah, I hope he's going to be okay. I mean, it seems like that knee problem that he had there was pretty serious because wasn't it 2 or 3 times that he injured it?
Yeah, he injured it. Yeah, I think three different times, and one leg just looks absolutely smaller than the other.
Yeah.
It looks like way extremely smaller than the other leg. Like, I'm not sure if he's like all the way back yet.
Yeah, I mean, when you have to sit out that long and the muscles atrophy in the leg because you have to, take time for the joint to heal. Yeah, that's going to be a glaring weak spot for him.
And plus, the guy he's fighting, he's no slouch.
Yeah, 27-2.
Yep, he's no slouch at all. Wow, he's 27-2. Oh man.
Oh no, 20 wins, 7 losses, 2 no.
Oh, okay.
Other.
I was almost surprised. That guy's 27-2. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And then we have Tim Kennedy versus Yoel Romero.
Yeah, that's a decent fight. I'm not a big Tim Kennedy fan.
Yeah, a lot of people don't like him. I don't know why that is. Why is it that you're not a fan of his?
I mean, he just I don't know. I'm just not a fan of him. Like,
I have to admit, I wasn't a fan of him either coming into the UFC.
Yeah, and I want to be a fan of the guy, but he just the way he talks and the way he fights, it just doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, I kind of grew. Once he got into the UFC, I didn't have much expectations for him in the UFC, and then he kind of grew on me, and now I'm kind of liking him. I kind of dig the shtick that he's trying to do. It's kind of like a toned down, Chael Sonnen type thing where he trolls people on Twitter. It's not disrespect shit like like Jon Jones does on Twitter and
oh man, the Jones guy.
I'm coming along. I do like Tim Kennedy now, but here's a great fight on the card: Bobby Green versus Jorge Masvidal.
Oh.
Wow.
This card might be better than I expected. All right.
Yeah, and then we have the return of Kat Zingano.
Oh. All right. Alpha. All right.
Yeah.
See, I didn't expect any of this.
Oh, and then Brian Ebersol versus John Howard.
Oh, so this card is...
Brian Ebersol, 50 wins, 16 losses, 1 draw.
And all of those losses have come at the most unopportune times.
Yep.
You could everything.
Huh? Holy shit.
Huh?
What a record that is. 50 wins.
Yeah, 50 wins, that is. Yeah. That is pretty ridiculous.
22 wins and 9 losses. And then we have Patrick Cote versus Stephen Thompson. Patrick Cote, what do you think about Patrick Cote?
Wow, I seriously did not. I didn't even know he was on this card, to be honest. Wow. I really haven't followed him much, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, he haven't followed him much.
He was around way back when, back in the old era. But for being around for so long, he doesn't really have all that many fights. 28 fights in total.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. For him he's been around since, what, 02, 01?
Yeah, he's been around forever.
And for him to only have 28 fights, well, that's because of injuries and, with everything piling up, Asian fighter, what is he, 36?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
For him to be that old, things take a toll on him. Oh, all right, that's why I didn't follow him. He took a break away from the UFC.
Well, what do you do? Go fight in Canada for a bit, or?
He fought in Canada for a little bit. After he lost to Silva, he lost 2 fights after that. And then he went and fought in Canada.
Back when GSP was coming out and, into the UFC early on, when there was a whole group of Canadian fighters at that time that were in the UFC. and they were all brutal ground and pounders with vicious elbows and striking. And I don't know what happened to that whole group of guys. They all seem to like chill out and lose the aggression that they once had. But Patrick Cote was around in that era too.
Yeah, he was. Let me see. He fought Kun Lee? Huh. Wow, I didn't know.
Way back?
No, when he first got back to the UFC, 2012.
Oh, he did?
Yep. He lost to Kun Lee.
And that's the thing with the fighters. It's tough for them, when they start aging. And yeah, he's 34 years old. It's tough for fighters when they start aging and they start getting the injuries and they've got to sit out for a little while and they're, they're not in the media's eye. They kind of, get forgotten because there's just so many fights. And if you're not constantly fighting 3 times a year, it's going to be tough for the fans to remember who you are.
Or even pulling a Donald Cerrone and trying to fight 7 times a year.
Yeah, he's going to do that this year, huh?
Yeah, that guy, that's amazing right there. And he's won literally all of them dominantly, too. That guy is pretty good, too.
Yeah, I'm going back. I'm looking at Patrick Cote's record on Sherdog now. Yeah, he's lost to some big-name fighters, and it seems like that's always been his downfall.
Can't clear it when it comes to it.
Yeah.
Sorry. How do you feel about this fight with Kun Lee and Michael Bisping?
Oh man, yeah. Actually, Michael Bisping, he saw that I tweeted that fight out, and somebody favorited my tweet, and he tweeted it out. But he didn't realize until I guess afterwards when he went to the site and read my comments. I guess he realized I'm not a fan of his.
No.
But I'm hoping for Kung Lee. I mean, that'll be. Michael Bisping is just one of my least favorite fighters. I'm starting to grow on the guy. He's starting to seem like a decent guy. He's he's kind of been humbled and he's been humiliated a couple of times, and he seems to become a little more likable, and he has a better persona lately than he has in the past, and he's not as disrespectful and things like that. Like I said earlier, I don't like those kind of fighters. I like the guys who are more, more oriented and have values and things like that, try to impart, positive things. And that was one of the reasons I was not a big fan of his. And, from early on, way back when in Tough, my grudge with Michael Bisping goes way back. But it'll be a hard pick for me. I'm going to be going with Kung Lee. I mean, more than likely, I'm going to assume that Michael Bisping will be the odds maker's favorite.
I mean, I wanted to go with Hundley, but he's, 43 now, 42?
Yeah.
Yeah, and Bisping, just coming off of another loss, he seems pretty angry, So when you combine both of those, I go with the combo machine, Michael Bisping. That guy pieces together combos like it's beautiful sometimes.
Yeah, I'm pulling up Kung Lee's record now. It's funny, he's only 9-2 in MMA.
Which is, he's been fighting, feels like forever.
Yeah. Yeah, he started in 2006 in MMA, his professional career in MMA. And he only lost to 2 top guys. Scott Smith at the time, who was a really big name. I don't know how he's doing lately. I know he's taken quite a few losses.
Yeah.
He's looking a little punch drunk. I like that guy, too. And then Vanderlei Silva.
Oof, that fight was brutal.
Yeah, those are his only 2 losses.
Let's see.
But, he knocked out Rich Franklin in his last fight 2 minutes and 17 seconds in.
That punch, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was a KO. And most of his KOs, most of his wins are KOs and TKOs.
Yeah, which is weird because his strikes look like they have no power behind them.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what he reminds me of? It reminds me of like when you're swinging a baseball bat. If you swing a baseball bat really hard, you usually don't go anywhere when you're trying to connect with the ball. But when you get that nice smooth swing,
it's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely agree with you on that one.
Yeah, That's what he reminds me of with his punching technique.
Yeah, and his kicking, he throws axe kicks, spinning back kicks. He throws them all. But when they connect, they just, look like, oh, you got to hit him with at least 500 more of those before you hurt him at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the odds are on this. I'm sure there are odds out for this now. I mean, this is happening within a couple of
Pretty
weeks.
soon.
Yeah. August 23rd in Macau, China.
And Bisping, speaking of, he has been up and down with his record. In his last 5 fights, his last 6 fights, he's doing 3-3.
Well, the thing with Michael Bisping is, I like him. I think he finally earned his spot. I always said for the longest time he was overrated. He didn't deserve to be where he was in the rankings. But over time, he proved that he did belong in the number 5 area of the division. But again, he's one of those guys that loses to top name opponents. He just cannot beat the big name fighters. Rashad Evans, his first loss. Dan Henderson, Vanderlei Silva, Chael Sonnen, Vitor Belfort, Tim Kennedy.
I mean, the only legit loss out of those who I can say he truly lost to was Vitor and Tim Kennedy. I mean, when you think about all of his losses, Chael Sonnen actually gave Bisping the win on that one.
Did you? I don't recall how I scored that one.
It was
here that was scored
very
here. It was a decision for Chael Sonnen. I don't remember the scores or anything like that on it.
It was very close, very close.
But more than likely, I probably would have scored against him. I'm jaded. I can admit that. There's certain fighters.
Admit what it is, man. Just admit what it is.
But like I said, I'm coming along with Mikey. I like Mikey now. I don't despise him like I used to. I actually like him now. He's being a little more, humble now. He's a little more personable when he's on camera. But again, I'll still go with Kung Lee.
Yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with either fighter in this one. Really can't go wrong. They're both great fighters.
Okay, and who else was on that card there? There was one more fight I wanted to mention on that card there. I really like this kid. Kevin Lee.
Kevin Lee?
Yeah, you know Kevin Lee? Kevin Motown Phenom Lee?
Wait, who? Oh, man, I don't know about him. Who was this guy?
Oh, he came into the UFC undefeated, 7-0. And then I kind of thought he got robbed, not robbed, but I had him winning his debut fight in the UFC. I thought he won it, but the judges scored against him, and I thought he actually won 29-28, as I recall. But yeah, he's now 8-1 in MMA, so I guess he won a fight in the UFC, and he's got a fight coming up against John Tuck, who's also 8-1. So 2 guys with identical records. I also interviewed Kevin Lee, and that was back when I was starting up another MMA venture with a couple of other guys that I was working with at the time. I was going to release that interview on that site, but Kevin Lee kind of got mad at me because I didn't release the interview, and we spent 2 days doing the interview. So I'm still going to put that together and release it. I mean, it'll be way late, but I didn't want to release it in all the turmoil that was going on. I got banned from a couple of MMA websites for fucking telling it like it is and calling fucking people out. So that's why I started this site where we're at now. There's no way I'm getting banned from this site. I've been banned from I don't know how many MMA websites for speaking my mind.
See, that's how can you ban somebody for speaking their mind on?
Yes, and how can you ban somebody who's supposed to be owner of a fucking website? I was supposed to be part owner and partners with the guy on a website. It wasn't a very big percentage of ownership.
Yeah.
How do you fucking ban somebody who's supposed to be your partner and an owner? Fucking douchebags. I just got tired of it. There's like 3 websites that banned me, man. It's like, what the fuck? You're going to ban me for speaking my mind?
Can't do that, really. Yeah, that's pretty tough, bro.
Well, that's what people do. When people can't, put up an intelligent, debate and actually debate and go back and forth, if you can't have that discourse intelligently and you have to resort to name calling, I mean, over and over again, it happened on this respectable site. And, I mean, it was just ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then I called the guy out every time he fucking did it, and I would call people out when they did it. And then, I mean, it was just crazy shit, and I dealt with it for years and years. And I just said, fuck it, I had enough.
Oh, man. It's pretty crazy, man.
But there's no way I'm getting banned from this site, so I'm going to be around forever here.
I found that, bro.
Yeah, so Kevin Lee, man, get a chance, check the guy out. Really nice guy. I'll get that interview done one of these days. I'm redoing all of the interviews that I did with fighters. I've got a whole series of interviews that I did with fighters, but they were branded for another site. So I got to remix them and take out the branding for the other site, and I'll re-release all of those. They'll be late and outdated, but it's always interesting to hear, how fighters interact with, somebody they're sitting down and chatting with. I mean, a couple of guys I interviewed were really, I didn't expect them to be so nice and personable.
Yeah. And like I wrote the article on doing interviews. I've talked to fighters who are just nicer than just most people I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
Like fighters, they can be.
And then the guys that you would think would need to be nice and personable, like assholes.
Not even close.
What?
Not even close. Like I've talked to fighters who have just been absolutely horrible trying to interview, and I've actually talked to fighters who have just been, some of the nicest people, like I said, I've ever met.
Now that you mention that, go ahead and tell the people what it is that you're actually doing there, because this is the first time you've actually been on a show with us.
Oh yeah. All right. So right now I'm interning for this MMA organization called Donald Frio MMA, where I go to fights. I have to interview the fighters beforehand. I have to write articles for the website, and I have to interview the fighters after their fights are over, and I have to do live updates too. So in the midst of this, I talk to fighters, I go to fundraising events, all these. I do a lot basically for the organization.
Do you audio tape the interviews with the fighters or video them, or?
I audio tape all my interviews, every one of them.
Man, put some of them up on the site.
I'm not sure if I have any of them left.
Oh, really?
I ran out of space. I had to delete pretty much all of them. Yeah, but I can. Like most of the fighters, we follow each other probably on Twitter, or I'll send them a friend request on Facebook, or they'll send me a friend request. So it's nothing to get in contact with them. I can still interview them like any day of the week. We still check. So it's pretty interesting when you talk to the fighters, because, like I said, most of them, when I'm talking to them, usually it's before their fights, so they haven't eaten at all, or they just got done weighing in. So either they're very disoriented in a way, or they're very super chill about the interview. But either way, it's always a different perspective when you're actually interviewing the fighters.
Yeah, I actually don't like to interview them right around training time for a fight. I feel bad, because if they lose, then I feel like, oh shit, was I a part of that? I took him away from his training.
Yeah. When I interview a fighter, I learned you either have to do it immediately after they weigh in, or immediately after they eat after their weigh-in. That's when they're at their coolest. Oh
yeah, that article you posted the other day, I put a graphic on it and got quite a few hits there. A lot of people found it interesting.
Yeah.
When to interview? I don't know. I wasn't sure how you actually wanted the title of that to be, but.
Oh yeah. How to interview, it really didn't matter.
Yeah, as I was reading that, I got the visual of that graphic in mind that I created. Go, oh wow, that would make a great graphic for that article. Yeah. But yeah, man, Antonio writes articles on the site too, so you can come by and read some of those as well. I'm hoping we get you on more shows, and I'm hoping that, again, like I said, I've interviewed fighters, and I do that on a show that's called the MMA Roundtable Discussion. So if you ever want to interview any of the guys, feel free, and we can put them on that show, and I'll let you, go ahead and be the host on that, and I'll just sit there in the background as a guest. So you're welcome to use that venue as well, buddy.
Oh, cool. All right. That's pretty cool. We have fights coming up, actually. They're coming up pretty soon. Pretty soon.
Okay.
It's called the Brawl in the Fall. That's the name of the next event or whatever.
Feel free to promote that on the site,
Oh
bud.
man, yeah, because I have to interview all the fighters like beforehand, and I have to write bios on the fighters.
Throw that
So that's
stuff
something
up
I
on the
probably
site.
can
I'm sure a lot of
incorporate.
people would find that interesting.
Yes,
Fighters, if
I'll
fighters
be sure to
contact me, they
incorporate
want to
that.
be on the show and they want to hang out with us and do the live chats, but we can never sync up with them. And then they want to promote themselves and put their videos up. And I tell them, guys, you're welcome to come to the site and do that. I've
Mm,
even created a forum for fighters, MMA fighters, amateurs, and professionals to come and throw up their stuff if they want to, participate like that. Because
mm,
I know a lot of fighters don't get the recognition they need, but at least, here, at MMA Chat, we do offer you a place to put up your videos if you want to promote yourself, and we'll do our best to help promote you as well. If you want to come on the
mhm.
shows and hang out with us and talk fights or predictions or whatever, we can
Um,
we can do that any number of ways.
like I just had a good idea. Just had a good idea. Because one of one of the guys I interviewed, he just got signed to Bellator. So I can ask him to actually be in one of these live chats. We're like Facebook friends. And he just broke the news that he got signed to Bellator.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and another fighter, her name is Elena Jones. I'm pretty sure she'd like to be on one of these shows too. She's a pro fighter as well.
They're all welcome.
Uh,
Anybody is welcome to join us. I mean, I interviewed Chris Tickle. Was
oh,
my
nice.
my first interview.
That's pretty
Really,
cool.
really cool guy, man. And
Hmm.
I didn't know a whole lot about him. I knew him from Tough, briefly, and then he got
Yeah.
eliminated on Tough. But he turned out to be a super cool guy.
Mhm.
For a while there, he was, in contact with me, sending me texts back and forth and things like that, and talking to me during the fights, by text message. And then when things started falling apart for me at my old place, nobody wanted to join me on the shows anymore. So I did a post-event show, and I got a hold of him. I said, Chris, man, you want to join me on the show? And he did the entire hour-long show with me. It was really
Wow.
cool. Really nice guy.
That's
I
pretty
think you would
cool.
like him.
Oh man, yeah. He seemed pretty cool on the show, so I'm pretty sure he's cool in real life too.
Yeah, he's actually trying to get back into MMA. I know that he had a kid last year,
Mm.
and I guess that took him out of training for a while because he had to, prepare and provide for his child.
Hmm.
But he's got another fight coming up recently. I follow him on Facebook and I chat with him periodically.
Hmm.
I'll try to get him on one of the shows with us to hang out because he does like to sit and bullshit. And he's not really an uppity kind of guy. He's your everyday kind of guy. He's a jokester, likes to have fun.
Yeah.
So I think he'd fit in good with you. You probably enjoy the guy. And also Houston Alexander interviewed him. He was a really cool guy too.
Oh wow.
And
Yeah. He seems pretty cool, pretty chill.
yeah, 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 he was a very cool guy. And then also Heath Herring interviewed him. He was a really cool guy. Um, wasn't a real big fan of his until I actually interviewed him, and then I saw what a cool guy he was, and I was like, man, I have this guy totally wrong.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's some fighters you're not a big fan of their octagon presence. But after you talk to him a few times, oh man, he's pretty good.
He was super cool, man. I
Hmm.
mean, originally when we sat down with him, it was supposed to be for a 20-minute interview. I think we went on for like 2 freaking hours.
Jeez, I've never done that one before.
Oh, you never have? Oh, some of the guys that, and Michelle Larson, I interviewed her too. She was great. I mean, she was really sweet, friendly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
our interview, that one went for 2 hours, but I don't remember what I edited it down to because we cut a whole bunch of, talk out. Because, we usually, go off topic like we do on the shows and we talk about all different things. And
Hmm.
the things that don't really pertain to that individual is if I'm interviewing an MMA fighter, I try to cut out anything that doesn't have to do with that fighter. Because in the interviews that I do, I try to take them up through their career. I introduce them at the beginning of the show, talk about their career, how many fights they had, the organizations that they've been through, and everything like that, all the way to current day. That's how I try to, approach my interviews that I do on the roundtable. But you're free to do it any way that you want. If you just want to sit down and talk about a topic, that's fine with me too.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Right. Well, that venue's open to you. If you want to start doing video interviews, we can do that whenever you want.
Oh, cool.
You just got to get the fighters to come to the site, get the information on what they need to do to, take part in the shows, because it's a two-part thread on the site there. One tells you about, contacting us, what you need to do to get, your internet working so you can actually join the shows. We do it live streaming through YouTube and the Google Hangout software. So,
all right, that's pretty cool, bro.
all right, man. I had a great time, buddy. Is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, not at the moment. I can't think of anything, man. So I think that'll be it for me.
All right, keep your eye on that Kevin Green. Check him out.
Yeah, I will.
Like I said,
definitely will.
I mean, not Kevin Green, Kevin Lee.
Kevin Lee, yeah.
And I'll post some of that info out there on him. And check out his fights, man. He's a badass dude.
I'm gonna do that. All right.
All right, buddy. Go ahead and say goodbye if you want to say goodbye.
All right. Thank everybody for watching. I had a ton of fun. This was actually pretty cool. It's hard to find somebody to talk to MMA with these days, so this is actually pretty cool.
Well, that's why we started it too, man. We started so we could actually sit down and actually talk to people, because I know a lot of MMA fans are like you and me. Not a whole lot of people in my neck of the woods who are my friends who actually want to talk about MMA.
Yeah.
And all of my friends that want to talk MMA are all so far away from me that we can't get to talk.
Yeah, same here.
All right, buddy. Thanks again, Antonio Cooper. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it, buddy. And we'll get together again. I know that there's a couple more topics we want to do shows about, but whenever you're free, buddy, contact me, let me know, and we'll be happy to do shows with you.
All right, cool. Thank you.
All right, buddy. You take care. Have a good one, my friend.
All right, you too. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.